Bond. James Bond.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Did we just become best friends?
Yup! Sublime!
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Tear me apart, Lisa!
But mostly I hate the way I don't hate you. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Not even at all.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of You Haven't Seen That, a movie discussion podcast where we introduce our friend Ben to movies he should have seen a long time ago. I'm your host, Amanda.
I'm Geoff.
And I'm Ben.
And today we are talking about Mission Impossible. Everyone's favorite. And by everyone, I mean everyone, not like just us. Everyone. And stick around until the end because we will be talking about our top 4 spy-related movie or TV shows that we like.
Mission Impossible, based on the long-running TV show, directed by Brian De Palma, released in May of 1996, starring everyone's favorite action star Tom Cruise, Jon Voight, Henry Czerny, Ving Rhames, are, I guess you could say, Karen Allen of season 2. You know, 2 Ving Rhames movies within the first 4 episodes or so. Jean Reno, Emilio Estevez, and Vanessa Redgrave. This movie's budget was $80 million, and it made $457 million at the box office. It set the record for the biggest opening weekend in May at the time. This movie did so-so with critics. It had a 65% of Rotten Tomatoes, but it has since spawned a long-running movie franchise, all starring Tom Cruise, that is currently 6 movies deep, with a 7th one, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, due out very, very soon after this episode is released.
Wait, I thought...
It's the 8th. It's 7 afterwards.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was like, hold on a sec. Great, thank you. Geoff, why don't you tell us your history with this movie?
So Mission Impossible, weirdly, I grew up loving spy movies. There were definitely some franchises in, say, the late 90s, early 2000s that I was a big fan of, but I never grew an attachment to the Mission Impossible movies. I was never really shown them by my parents. I never, found them to be all that compelling outside of maybe a couple of scenes here and there that would be shared. I had maybe seen this movie in parts at one point or another, but it wasn't until the mid 2010s to late 2010s when Mission Impossible Rogue Nation and Mission Impossible Fallout came out, and those got the critical reviews that they got, that I said, you know what, it might be time to go back, rediscover this franchise a lot. So I've since seen the original Mission Impossible now a few times. Specific scenes I've seen a lot more than others, but yeah, this is one that's kind of become a more recent affinity of mine.
Great. And what about you, Ben?
I have actually seen a Mission Impossible movie, but not this one. I saw Mission Impossible 3. I believe trying to remember what the context of why I saw it. I was in college. Might have been like related to, we used to go through to a drive-in and watch movies nearby, and I feel like maybe this was like the second one of a movie we were trying to go see, and then this was like the double feature movie airing after it. But I actually remember really liking it. That's the one with Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I actually really loved that. And so I've always in my head been like, oh, I should try the other ones, because I feel like that's not even anybody's favorite. But I remember really liking it at the time. But that's the only one I have seen to this day. And it was about 20 years ago almost.
You know what, Ben? I'm a defender of Mission Impossible 3 as well. I think it's great.
And I don't have anything to compare it to besides this one now, but yeah, I remember really liking it at the time.
Yeah.
I actually trying to think if I own, there's some random movies I own on DVD, and that might be one of them. I don't know for sure.
I'm excited to talk about the franchise as a whole throughout this episode.
Great. And for me, I have seen the 6th movie in the Mission Impossible cinematic universe. And this is my first time watching the first one. Obviously I knew the theme song and had seen like, the scene of Tom Cruise dropping from the ceiling, blah blah blah. But yeah, first time watch for me as well. So Ben, why don't you give us your score?
Yeah, I still like three more than this, I will say. I thought this movie for me started really strong, but then I felt like it kind of hit a wall for me. Kind of halfway through, I felt like it got too convoluted. I thought the second half did not work nearly as well as the first half for me. So I'm gonna give it three.
And what about you, Jeff?
Mission Impossible 1 is a 3.5 in my book, one of the kind of lower end movies of the franchise, which listen, if you're like a 7 out of 10, a 3.5 out of 5 and you're at the bottom half of kind of a franchise, like that's a great sign for your overall health of your franchise. But yes, Ben agreed with you. I appreciate some of the zaniness of this and kind of the ridiculousness of this, but I do like when the franchise has gone on a little bit later. It's almost a little too ridiculous and crazy for me, especially with the direction that they take with some character plot lines in the, towards the middle of it.
For me, this is a 2.75.
Look at that. Geoff topped the leaderboard once again.
Had a 3.5.
Shocking, shocking. I'm
I
so
know, right?
shocked.
I do like, I will say one thing I like and one thing I don't like right off the bat here. One thing I like is, well, I mean, I love the theme song,
Hmm.
obviously from the TV show. And I love that like they treat, and I know that at least the third one I remember doing this too. That they start with like a little opening and then go into the theme song, almost like it's a TV show. Like it's like a cold open and then the theme song. And I feel like very few movies actually do something like that. And so they almost, at least to those two feel like episodes of a show in some ways, which, as a TV fan, I appreciate it. And then obviously going forward are some spoilers here, but I figured out John Voight was the bad guy within about 30 seconds. Um, he was on the plane and I was like, he's the bad guy.
Classic.
It was funny rewatching that kind of the intro to this movie, knowing that he is the bad guy and seeing like the little hints along the way and being like, yep, okay, yep, and making everything kind of stack on top of each other. Because I'm someone who, especially the first time I see a movie, I just want to get lost in it and just appreciate kind of what's going on. But now that I've seen it now a few times and I can pick up on some things, I'm like, oh, yep, I see him doing this or I see him doing that. Like the part when Ethan looks at his camera on his watch or whatever, and he shows him getting shot, and you can clearly see the hand kind of turned towards him with the gun. But it's one of those where it's like, oh, they try to hide it ultimately,
Yeah.
which I kind of appreciate, but also it's like you played your hand there a little bit. But yeah,
And
it's very clear.
I'm not someone who like tries to look for that, but I just felt like it's John Voight. He's playing like an older character, but he's not the star. I'm like, he's got to be. And I feel like every spy show has like some mentor who turns out to be the that. Like every spy show, spy movie has some double agent type character in there, and so I'm like, predetermined to like look for that. And as soon as I saw that it was John Voight and I saw him sitting there on the plane, I was like, I know what's gonna happen. And then when they all died, I was like, they're not all dead. Like it's way too early in the movie for this many big names to be dead already.
See, I didn't even know most of them were big names, so I
Uh,
did believe that
Big-ish
they
names.
died.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
oh, because I was like, we don't know these characters. Like, they could, it was believable to me they could have all just died.
To me, the first time I saw it, when Emilio Estevez died very early on in the movie, that was the one that kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I was like, "Whoa, okay, we're killing him off right off the bat," because that was my connection point to this movie. Obviously, outside of Tom Cruise, I'm like, "Oh, that's Gordon Bombay, that's Breakfast Club, and he's dead within 15 minutes. Great, okay, now I don't know what's gonna happen. Anybody can die along the way." So, no, I really do like the beginning sequence of the movie a lot when everything falls apart and then kind of falls back onto Ethan and throwing the blame on him. So I agree with you, Ben, when you were talking about what you liked about the movie and your score at the beginning. I do like the way the beginning unfolds, as ridiculous and over the top as a lot of it is.
Tom Cruise ripping that face off himself.
So good.
I'm like, oh,
Multiple
Thomas.
times. Multiple times ripping a face
Yeah.
off.
It's very funny seeing the makeup and the masks and everything from these movies because that is something that has stuck around through other iterations of the franchise and how it's still as ridiculous in later movies. Now, obviously, it's gotten better as effects have gotten better because in this one it's very practical kind of look. It still looks like Tom Cruise, and then in later movies, he's completely taken over by the character he's supposed to represent. But no, I like that their team is not at all subtle walking through this venue, very vocally like he's right there looking at him, or very much looking, it does look fake, his mask looks very fake as he's walking through the crowd, or the one agent spraying their target with this spray, she doesn't do it very subtly whatsoever. It almost seems like this impossible mission force of theirs is maybe not, either they've gotten to a point of just comfort because in that intro scene where they're all together, they're all joking around and messing around. It's almost like they got into a point of comfort where they're like, yeah, we could get away with this or anything. Or they're just not as refined or as good as other maybe government agencies are. But no, I appreciated the way the beginning of the movie unfolded.
One of my favorite things, and I realized this when I was um making the top four for the end, which obviously I won't give away now, but uh, I feel like I tend to like the idea of spy shows, or at least the beginning of them,
Mm-hmm.
more than the follow through of them sometimes. Uh, like my favorite things in like the spy genre is like that first mission the whole team was on, where they were at the swanky party, they were trying to like, work together through their, little talking to each other, and everybody's somewhere in the building doing something, and they're playing their covers and stuff. And I love seeing that unfold. But then I always feel like I get kind of annoyed after that first mission in all these, types of movies and TV shows where it's like, then it's like the ramifications of it, or it's the tracking down the enemy kind of thing. It turns into more of like an action thriller kind of thing rather than like the undercover side of it. So I always like when spy characters are playing like,
Spies.
spies, yeah, when they're being something they're not supposed to be, and they're kind of trying to assimilate into some type of crowd. I always enjoy that. It's like what happens after that that I tend to bail on sometimes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was actually thinking about as you were talking about it because, again, not to spoil my list. Fine, I'll spoil my list a little bit. When I think of some of my favorite James Bond movies, my favorite James Bond movie, we'll go with my favorite James Bond movie, Casino Royale, starring Daniel Craig. It's not super action. There are moments of action, but the movie kind of is really humming when he's not shooting people up. It's him doing kind of secretive things and, you know, playing into his talents and his skills. And I do like the action sequences in that movie quite a bit. I do appreciate the moments of non-action where he gets to be smart. Almost makes it believable. Like, hey, I could do that, or he or she is just being a normal person, or I can learn those tricks and whatever. Obviously I can, but no, there's that little aura of believability, if you will, with spies.
Do you think, like the scene I was discussing, speaking of believability, do you think like this sort of thing happens in real life? Like a whole team goes to a swanky party and they're all talking to each other on, little earpieces, and one of them is like a waiter, and two of them are like a drunk couple, and one of them is, like, do you think this actually happens? I feel like this is like a TV and movie creation. They're all played so similarly. Like whenever you see a scene like that, and it's always at some ritzy, swanky, wealthy, you know fancy event. And I always feel like they're always playing the same types of roles. It all like kind of follows such a trope. Do you think such a thing happens in real life? I feel like a spy's real life is not dressing up at a swanky party and trying to, stop something. I feel like it's much grimier than that.
I was about to say that's maybe the 1% of instances. 99%
Yeah.
of the job is stakeouts and sitting
Yeah,
around
like
and scouting
yeah.
things out. Why do you think
Which
when
obviously
we
doesn't make for a good movie, but
No, of course not. When we hear about people going undercover for years and then finally coming out to make one big bust, that's a lot of just grinding it out every single day. But I feel like movies got to get inspiration from somewhere. But also, yeah, that is definitely the kind of 1% of
yeah. Well, it's just
moments
done
in Nicholas
so
Sparks'
often. I'm
career.
like, is there some truth to it? I feel like no, but maybe
Right.
there is.
Maybe. I mean, spies are always trying to like infiltrate the rich and powerful, so
I guess
like
we
for the
wouldn't
most
know.
part. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, so it's like definitely possible. At first I was thinking maybe that kind of got its roots in it just to me like screams Europe during like one of the world wars.
Yeah.
Like, right? So I'm like maybe that's kind of where this maybe people did do that more frequently and then people started writing stories about it, but I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't still happen. I don't think spies exist. I don't believe that.
Spies and birds. Um,
They're not doing their job well if we do hear about the stories.
That's true.
yeah. Maybe it's like one of those things, where it has happened, but it's way overplayed on TV and movies.
Hmm.
That the
Probably.
frequency is much more common.
Yeah, I think it's much more similar to like Austin Powers, probably.
Hmm.
So I don't know with this movie, you guys. It's like I don't like Tom Cruise. I don't love these like action movies, spy movie things. I don't know. I appreciated one of you said this earlier. I think Jeff. I appreciated that it was very low stakes. That's one thing that really bothers me about a lot of action, superhero, whatever TV shows, movies nowadays is that everything is like literally life or death, the end of the world. Like the big bad is going to blow up the earth and humanity will cease to exist. And it's like, can we just like, we know how that's going to end, right? Like it's not going to happen. And so, especially with the Mission Impossible movies, at least the other one that I've seen, and obviously we're always hearing about the crazy stunts that Tom Cruise is doing and, all this, and it's just getting more and more like larger than life. So I appreciated the smaller scale of this, even though there was, a helicopter in a train tunnel, and that definitely like screamed Mission Impossible.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yep.
But for the most part, it was pretty small scale, small stakes, and it was just so I appreciated that part of this movie.
I was gonna say if they tried to recreate this in 2025, Tom Cruise is figuring out a way to fly an actual helicopter into a tunnel and make it look a little more realistic than Jean Reno trying to jiggle the joystick as he's trying to get into the tunnel when
Yeah,
any
that
movement in there is him gonna crash into the wall and him going to slam into things. Yeah, it's he would
yeah,
find a way
that
to
looked
make
a
it more
little
realistic.
little dated.
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
I will.
Amanda, how did you feel about this one compared what was the one you saw? Six?
Six, yeah.
How did you feel about
I
the
don't know.
same or
I don't know. What? When what?
which one did you like more?
I don't know. I don't know what happened in the other one. What
Six,
year did
six,
we?
six was 2018. It had Henry Cavill,
Oh,
Sean
so this
Lark.
was okay. So this was before I had Letterboxd. I was like,
Yes.
what did I give it on Letterboxd? I don't know. Nothing. Um, yeah, I don't know. I honestly couldn't tell you what even happened in that movie. I think they were someplace cold, maybe.
They had to go to
Just like actually they were in Aruba.
they had to go to
No.
kind of the three-way border between Pakistan, Nepal, and India to prevent a nuclear weapon going off. that was going to be started by the Apostles and led by John Lark. And the villain from number 5, who's played by Sean Harris. God, I can't remember his name right now. I'm blanking. But
I mean, it wasn't cold.
I mean, it was cold. They had to wear like a jacket and stuff there.
Oh, okay.
Nepal gets cold. It's in the mountains.
Okay.
No,
I was going to ask you at the end, but since we're talking about the other movies, Geoff, what is your Mission Impossible ranking?
Okay, so pre number 8 that comes out in a week and a half after this records. My ranking is 6, 5, 3, 7, 4, 1, 2.
I do know like 2 is widely considered the worst.
2 is different. It's directed by a famous Chinese martial arts movie director, John Woo, and that's not saying that as a negative against him because he's very well celebrated and his movies are pretty good. But it takes a weird tone where Tom Cruise literally becomes like the greatest martial artist of all time in that movie, and like he's kicking guns out of the dirt up into his hands and like turning around and doing shots. He's like grinding motorbikes on the ground. Limp Bizkit remakes the Mission Impossible theme song. It gets
Yeah, Ben, I actually really want to watch the second one because it looks so 2000s.
Oh my
Like,
gosh, it is so 2000.
a trailer was playing for it after we watched the first one, and like Tom Cruise's hair is all long, and like Jeff said, the theme song. I was like, I just want to watch this for the laughs.
I want to at least watch or listen to the Limp Bizkit theme song.
It's incredible.
So what I'm hearing is that, Amanda, we have a movie date later and we're watching Mission Impossible 2.
Well, no, we need to watch it for the podcast.
Look at Amanda just asking for another Tom Cruise movie.
Gross.
Amanda, how about this? We don't watch it for the podcast. That way we don't have to like focus and take notes and instead just appreciate the craziness and zaniness. And like I said, I think it's the worst one too. So you can judge it all you want and I won't judge you in return.
No, thanks.
You're welcome.
This did make me want to rewatch 3 because I just remember really liking Philip Seymour Hoffman in that one.
3 is sick.
I don't like Tom Cruise really much either, like you, Amanda, but I remember liking Philip Seymour Hoffman so much in that movie.
The way that movie starts and the tone that it sets and the fact that Philip Seymour Hoffman is such a different villain than the ones in the first 2 movies is amazing. And he plays it so serious. Like both the first 2 Mission Impossible movies are ridiculous.
Yeah, I was going to say I remember the one I saw feeling much less goofy.
Far less goofy. It is so right down the middle and so good. And you're terrified when Philip Seymour Hoffman is on screen. Like he is amazing.
Yeah, he was a bad dude in that movie.
Bad
and that was 20 years ago. Like I remember him in that.
Mm-hmm. That's saying something.
Yeah.
Back to this movie. We have gone on for this now about 15 minutes or so, and we haven't once talked about the CIA break-in scene. I have so many thoughts about the Langley break-in scene that, I mean, I think it's amazing. I get why it's held in such high regards relative to other things in the franchise, but just a lot of little questions about this, such as, what's his name? William Donlow. Like, what does he actually do in that station all day that he has this, like, super access? And how...
I think he just stands there all day.
I mean, they do have a chair. He does get his own little chair, but
I guess
I'm just curious what he's doing.
Well, here's my thing. If I was in a room like that, so like, a big room with a lot of empty space, I guarantee you, I would be able to feel if there was a man hanging above me. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you can't be in a space like that and not just feel another person's presence.
Right, you're just
There's somebody right above you right now, Amanda.
Oh no. How they get in my room?
Zoom.
That'd be terrifying.
I agree. I mean, obviously that's like the most iconic scene from Mission Impossible and the Tom Cruise climbing and the gravity thing. And for me that scene went on a little too long.
See, I I like that it went on for as long as it did without the music, without anything. I was a fan of
Yeah.
that.
I didn't mind like the yeah, I thought it was like interestingly shot and interesting to not use any music, but I just felt like it was taking too much time for me.
Which movie has a better air vent crawl, Ben? Mission Impossible or Die Hard?
Oh, Die Hard. I'm always going to answer Die Hard.
I didn't even notice that there wasn't any music or anything.
Yeah, I
Really?
mean,
I feel like it was so like quiet.
there was nothing. You couldn't hear any, like, every noise. And again, it amplifies the fact that, once it reaches a certain point, toast, you can't, you're busted. It really played into that very effectively. So, yeah, I was holding my breath. There were times still where I hold my breath as it goes through because of the tension that it builds. I liked the idea of like catching sweat with your hands, or the knife obviously hitting the table at the perfect moment, or Tom Cruise wearing ballet shoes, or Keegler, John Reno's character, just being the absolute worst at all times. Just everything about that, I think it made for a very, very effective scene. And not believable, but believable. Semi-believable in terms of, hey, this could be a thing. Except for when, who's her face, Claire sits next to Donlo in the cafeteria in the seat right next to him to sprinkle something in his drink.
In 2025, never.
That's not flying. That's not flying.
I don't care how pretty you are. You don't just sit next to someone like that in the year of our Lord 2025.
What about 1996?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. They were freaks back then.
So Luther, Ving Rhames' character, sticks around for the entire franchise, basically, after this movie. It's funny seeing him in this movie compared to how his characters played out in the other movies, and seeing why Ethan would be a fan of his right from the get-go, because as he's describing the idea of this break, and Luther is so excited and ready to do this and wants to try this and is super excited about the idea. Keegler doesn't care in the slightest. He just wants the money, obviously, and we find out that he's a bad guy, so there's another layer to it. And Claire's hesitant and indifferent, but not. Luther's bought into this from the beginning, so it makes sense why Ethan would want to go back to him in later movies as a character, beyond just the fact that Ving Rhames, as we've seen in doing Pulp Fiction a few weeks ago, is great. So no, I liked the idea of introducing these two characters also randomly in the middle of it all, to add a little bit of color to this big set piece.
I was gonna say, did you find this might have just been my TV or my Prime Video account, but I found that I had to keep turning up the volume and turning it down because I felt like the action scenes were so loud, so I turned it down, and then I felt like the characters, especially John Voight, were so mumbly that I had to turn it up, and I was like, could we just land on a nice level here?
I mean, that wouldn't surprise. I could believe either option because of older man kind of playing it down, or Ethan Hunt being just full on to the max the entire movie. But also, that's a testament to physical media. No streaming. Physical media. Get your Blu-rays and your DVDs, people.
Well, I'm not buying a DVD of this movie, but I do agree with you on the principle of it. The other thing I was going to say is I also loved how the old internet was so prominent in
yes.
this. Like,
oh my gosh.
I was like, it's like a high stakes thing, and it still felt so quaint, and like the chat rooms and the
oh my gosh.
The stuff like that. I was just like, oh, the internet used to be so simple.
The way he was Googling and stuff. I mean, yeah, Amanda, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yes, it was old internet, but even then, like, the internet was never quite like that. Like his email thing was just crazy, the way it would like pop up and then be like, whoosh.
Yeah, although I mean there was like those graphics back in the 90s on the internet did do like stuff like that. Like
I know, it was still just a little, I don't know. I I agree. I liked seeing it.
I did like when he was doing his searches there on the internet. Nothing came up when he searched for Max.com or Job slash job. Nothing.
Nothing existed on the internet.
Now AI would
Did.
tell us so many bad, stupid links that we wouldn't need.
It would be like, Max, are you referring to HBO Max? Are you referring to Maximilian? I don't know.
Unbelievable.
It reminded me like that version of the internet because we got the internet like I want to say like 1998. And before that, the only place I ever was on the internet besides like very occasionally at school was like was either the library, which I would go down, on my own and go on the internet when you could have like an hour to be on the internet. Or my grandpa had it, and so when we go visit my grandparents, I'd go on his computer, and I mostly would go on like Nick at Night and TV Land things and chat rooms and stuff like that, which I was probably not, shouldn't have been in any chat rooms at that age, but like but it was just like it just like when you see things like that, it like for me brings me back to that time period, and how it just operated back then. Like it was
Yeah.
such a different world with the internet.
Oh, for sure. Unbelievable stuff. I mean, for me, my first real internet experience was just AOL and getting those CDs for AOL and installing it in the computer and shutting down the phone lines while that amazing load up sound played as you got on and you got mail came on. I never had a kind of chat room experience like that growing up.
You're probably better for it.
Probably.
It's true.
No AOL chat rooms?
Not that I could think of. I mean, obviously, like every human being ever, I used AIM, but no chat rooms or anything like that.
Mm, yeah. Well, yeah, that's better that you didn't.
I turned out fine.
I know, but it's like similarly to today, there weren't great places to hang out.
Yeah, it felt like less. This is probably like rose-colored glasses, like how our parents are like, in the 50s, we didn't have to lock our doors. But like, I don't know. I feel like back in the 90s, like there wasn't as much predatory, unsavory things going on. I know it got that way, but I feel like, I don't know. I was a 9-year-old, and granted, it was a Nick at Night chat room, so maybe those types of people weren't infiltrating Nick at Night chat room.
Oh
And
my
I'm sure my
goodness.
parents would not have been happy if they knew I was doing that. So I'm not like trying to say like it was a good choice. I'm just saying, I don't know. I didn't feel like I was in a dangerous situation.
Yeah, they hadn't realized they could harness the power yet.
Yeah. They
So
were-
we've kind of fallen off with our last couple episodes about talking about relationships, and I don't know if it's something we want to continue into this new season, but I mean, I just want to say Claire and Ethan suck.
Big time.
I
Yeah.
know they're not even like a real relationship, I guess.
I feel like none of the movies we've done so far this year are like, you know, fit relationships as much. I mean, I guess Liar Liar had the ex relationship, but
Yeah.
like in Terminator sort of, I guess, but
Yeah, I don't know, but I was incredibly annoyed with the Ethan Claire thing right
Oh,
from the get-go.
right from the
The
beginning.
very first thing when he's trying to like wake her up from the, I don't know, whatever spy thing they were doing. And he was like caressing her face. I was like, oh my God, like stop it. Why do you need to wake her up so sexually? It's so like that is someone's wife, sir, and you know it. Get out of here.
there are some parts of Tom Cruise movies where I always feel like we're seeing the real Tom Cruise. And I feel like that was like how he probably acts like in that. But another place where I felt that was when he was being like, where did the disc go? And then he was like doing like the sleight of hand
Oh
thing.
yeah.
And he was being like such a jerk about it. And I was like, this feels like Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise. Like, oh,
Mhm.
where is it? Is it here? Oh no. Like, and I was like, I just hate that like smarmy version of him.
Oh my gosh.
I think you're right. That probably is him.
It's very funny too when you mention the close-up magic. He brings back Ethan Hunt brings back close-up magic in Mission Impossible 7, the latest one from 2023. And I forgot just the number of callbacks to this movie that you see in later movies of the franchise, like the close-up magic from 7. Number 6, there's a very similar studio build-out element, like there is at the very, very beginning, an interrogation scene in this movie. So a lot of fun callbacks to this movie later on in the franchise too. But yeah, very annoying couple situation there. They are eyeing each other up right from the get-go, right in front of John Voight. I'm like, he's talking about his marriage and whatever. They're talking about their marriage or whatever later on in the movie, just being meh. I mean, are you seeing what's going on in front of your face in real time? Not great. The way Ethan interrogates Claire when she gets back to the safe house too is very like, it's played to be almost seductive to an extent. And I'm not a fan of it. And yeah, they're just weird.
Yeah, they for sure are. They're starting. We're not gonna use them as our
Our benchmark.
like benchmark couple. They're definitely below that. That's for sure. I'm gonna give them like a ooh, maybe I should start giving people rankings and then I'll see if I was right at the end. I feel like they've got to be pretty low. Like 1.5 maybe or
Yeah.
something. Because they're not even a real couple.
Right,
No,
exactly.
And she was like kind of being unfaithful to her husband. We don't know if they did anything while, no, she was because she knew he wasn't dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she was doing stuff with him even though she knew her husband wasn't dead. So, yeah, they get like a 1.5. I believe we can find people that are worse.
I'm sure.
Somebody trying to murder someone else. Well, no, she did try to murder him, didn't she?
Every time you think you're going to give her a grace, you find something that more.
Right? At the end, she was going to murder him?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So they're getting like they're gonna get like a 0.5.
I like it. No, it's still not as bad as What Lies Beneath.
The ultimate.
They're just the worst.
Seriously.
Um,
And also it even plays out as Ethan's thinking about how Jim killed everybody and set everything up in their little talk scene in London before getting on the train, and that whole thing's playing out. And as we know, in Ethan's mind, he still doesn't want it to be Claire. He's still like, oh, how would that happen with the car? And Claire in his mind like blows up the car, and he still can't believe it. He's still like, she couldn't have done it. There's no way. Oh, Ethan.
Don't you worry.
supposedly, these great. I will say one of
Right.
my favorite little moments was, and it was just so smoothly done, was the tape destructing, which I know is a thing for Mission Impossible, but then like him blending it in with the smoking
Mm-hmm.
at the
Oh,
very beginning.
yeah.
I was like, that was so smoothly done, John Voight.
I know, right?
I was not expecting it to be so subdued, like the self-destruction.
Well, it has to be. It can't like be an explosion on a plane.
I mean, I guess, but every time, I think every other thing I've ever seen where it's like this will self-destruct it, like it explodes, it self-destructs. So I was like, oh no, how are they gonna like, you better get that away from you. But then, yeah, it was just a little. Also, what happens if they don't accept? I need to know.
Who knows?
Like,
They're,
they need to
they're,
find
I mean,
someone
it
else.
sounds like their choice. Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
But like, do you really get a choice?
If you're like, I'm good.
I was about to say, IMF looks at them and they're like, they take it into consideration when the next assignment comes around.
That
They're
could
like,
be.
oh, that fun mission, the one where you get to go to a tropical climate for the next 3 weeks, staking something out.
You're going to Siberia.
You're gonna get passed on that. Exactly. You're gonna go to middle of nowhere Russia.
So therefore, it's not really a choice if they're going to use it against you.
Well, I mean, isn't that always true in jobs? Sometimes you have things that are choices, but not really. I
I don't know.
feel like everybody
I
has that in their
guess.
job at points.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
I was really excited, and then I was disappointed, by seeing that the final scene was on a train because I love things on trains. I think we've talked about that before.
Hmm.
Um, I, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be a fun train scene, but like I felt like it didn't. I don't know. It didn't quite work for me as well as I thought it would.
Mm.
I felt like the
Hmm.
resolution, it got so silly with the helicopter coming into the tunnel and stuff like that, and then being on top of the train that I was like, oh, this is. Whereas I felt like when they were like first, like being like quietly like trying to set Jim up and stuff was like, oh, I like this, like kind of going through the cars and stuff, but it didn't stay interesting to me.
Right. No, it definitely gets zany by the end, and it's one of those where I think you just have to play it up for the big screen. You have to play it up for
Yeah.
the box office, and you have to have
And it's
that
like
big.
Terminator, like these final action sequences just go on and on sometimes. And I know that's like a
Yes.
thing, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. And yeah, you'll appreciate the seventh one. There's a train sequence at the end of the seventh one. There you go.
Ben, have you seen Bullet Train?
No.
Have we ever talked about that?
I don't know if you guys did. Somebody talked to me about that.
We probably did.
Amanda
I
would be the
love
one to
like
talk about
train
it.
mysteries. Like that's one of my favorite genres. Action train things I'm a little less so on.
Gotcha. So your prime target here is Murder on the Orient Express,
Yes,
is what you're
exactly.
telling me.
Exactly.
Everything
Don't
Which I
about
watch
it.
saw
that
the remake
movie.
in theaters. That's how much I like.
Ew. Did
I
you
didn't love
like
the
it?
remake. No, I didn't
Okay.
love it, but
I was about to say the
I went. I
original.
was so that tells you how excited I was that I saw it in theaters.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think Bullet Train, it's both, I think. It's like a mystery and action.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Probably more action than mystery, but there is an element of like you don't
I
know
I
what's
get
going
like
on.
I don't know, action movies I tend to get a little they tend to get a little long for me unless it's Die Hard.
Yeah, I mean, same, same. But I think you should maybe give Bullet Train a chance. I didn't think I was really gonna like it because I'm usually kind of meh on action movies. I loved it. I've seen it a bunch of times.
Yeah, Bullet Train's good.
Anyways.
So what I'm hearing based on past conversations now is that we need to find Ben faster, shorter action movies, more train things, grounded sci-fi.
I'm very particular about the kinds of movies I want to see.
Hey, that's a good thing. I'll add a bunch to the list.
Oh, you're a good sport and watch things that you
Yes,
I
don't
do.
like
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah. You never know. Something can always surprise.
it's appreciated.
Yeah, like
You know,
Parasite.
I the Parasite or with TV, I always talk about The Last of Us being a huge that shouldn't be anything I like, and I love it. So
Hmm.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep. All right. Anyone have any last thoughts or comments or anything?
I think we covered everything that I at least noted, and yeah, I appreciate what this movie does. I do appreciate the zaniness of it, but I do like when it gets more serious later on in the franchise.
Yeah. For me, just a couple of silly notes. Yay, Danny Elfman,
Yes.
working on the score, which felt like really random, but I was excited when I saw that. I was proud of them for having like pretty equal female male representation on their spy team, which was fun.
especially for the 90s, that was
Yeah.
Hmm.
yeah.
I was like surprised when there were so many ladies there. I was like, all right. Um, the one scene when they were in the aquavarium, um, and Tom Cruise was talking to whoever that guy was,
Henry Czerny.
and
Yeah.
like all their like camera angles were like
Oh
this,
Dutch
yes.
angles.
like
Dutch
Yes.
under their
angles.
faces.
Yes.
I was
I
like,
meant to write
oh.
something about that. Yeah.
Yes, the Dutch angle camera shot. I love
Yeah.
that.
I wonder
Building
if
up the
that's the thing from the
suspense.
original TV show.
That's a great question.
I've
It's
never
just
seen the
so
original show, but
unflattering.
that seems a little like a 60s show kind of thing that they might do. And I know that well, I'll talk about that when we get to our top four. There's a parody of those types of 60s shows that does that kind of camera angle a lot. So I wouldn't be shocked if that came from the original TV show.
Gotcha. Yeah. I don't know. I was just like, that's really unflattering. And it just made me uncomfortable that like watching this conversation happen with like only those shots back and forth. I was like, what is happening? Because I feel like we never see that nowadays.
No.
Yeah, those were all the notes that I had. So, Jeff, why don't you tell us your movie recommendations to pair with Mission Impossible?
Okay, so I will start with kind of spy movies, espionage movies around this time, agent movies. Not to tease one of my list a little later on, but I'm going to recommend The Bourne Identity. Came out probably the first one came out probably 7 years, 8 years after this movie did. Really popularized the shaky cam technique in action movies and was a big hit. Though I will say that the Bourne franchise kept Matt Damon from being the star of Avatar, which I don't know if he regrets or not, but alas. But I do love the Bourne. I do love that entire franchise. I personally prefer the third, the Bourne Ultimatum, but no, I think that Bourne Identity is a great place to go after this. Mission Impossible is also in the run of Tom Cruise doing really interesting things with really interesting directors around this time. He had done movies with Rob Reiner. He did this with Brian De Palma. He had done a movie with Stanley Kubrick, Paul Thomas Anderson. But I'm going to recommend The Color of Money, with directed by Martin Scorsese and also featuring Paul Newman, and almost a changing of the guards, if you will, with a movie like this, where you could almost see that play out in some of Tom Cruise's later movies, like Top Gun Maverick, when he's on the screen with Miles Teller and Glenn Powell at the same time. So, and then the last one is I'm going to recommend my favorite Mission Impossible movie, Mission Impossible Fallout. The trailer got very famous when it first came out because Henry Cavill literally cocks his fists to a music drop, and like he's loading up his arms to punch someone in the face, and Tom Cruise flies a helicopter and he does a halo jump out of a plane that is really
Of
close
course
to
he
the
does.
ground. It's psychotic. It's an awesome movie, though. It's one of the best action movies I've ever seen, one of the best of the last 10 years or so, and yeah, Mission Impossible Fallout.
You say so.
I trust me, babe. I remember I saw your face in the theater when we saw it together at the Alamo Draft House. You were captivated.
Yeah.
But she
Yeah.
remembers so much of it.
She remembers so much.
Uh, all right, Ben, do you have any TV recommendations this week?
Yes. So I have a couple that I'm not going to share because they're in my top four. So when we get to the top four, I will do that. But a couple others that didn't make my top four. One is the original TV show, which I've never seen, so I can't speak to the quality of it. But I mean, that's what this is based on, which I think the film is far superseded the TV show in terms of the public consciousness. But it was based on a 60s TV show, and spy shows were all the rage in the 60s. So there's a ton of them from then. I've not really seen any of them, and they probably would feel pretty dated now. But I think could be interesting to check out an episode or two. And then the other one that I feel like kind of captures the vibe to some degree, although I think this is goofier than that, but I think uh, definitely captures it and would be probably on a lot of people's top four spy shows, but is not on mine, is Alias with
Hmm.
Jennifer Garner. I watched the first season and I couldn't totally like get into it. Like I never ended up sticking with it, even though I really appreciate it. I know a lot of people love it. Maybe I'll give it another try someday, but I feel like it has some of the similar vibe to this, a little less goofy.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Oh, and
Um,
I should also mention, because Jeff said um, Born Identity, that just like Mission Impossible, random movie, I've seen the second one of this in this case. I saw a third Mission Impossible. I've seen Born Supremacy, but I haven't seen any other Born movies. Because this was like, again, these were movies like coming out in college time, and you were
Yeah.
just like watching a movie with your friends. So who was I to be like, oh, I need to watch the first one first, you know?
Right?
Like,
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the Jason Bourne movies,
yeah.
so we
You
can
see,
put the first one on the list.
we can put the first one on the list. You've seen the
Yeah,
Born.
we
You
could.
like the Born Stuntacular at Universal, so you
Yeah,
probably dig it.
we for the very first time this past fall saw the Bourne Stuntacular, which was actually really incredible. I don't know that I don't it was not because of the character or because of like the plot, but they just did a really great job integrating um like screens and digital things with real life things, and the stunts were amazing. So anyways. All right, so let's get into our top four. So like we kind of been mentioning, we're gonna do our top four favorite spy movies or TV shows. And Ben, why don't you start us off so you can tie in your TV recommendations?
Sure. Mine are all TV. No, they're not all TV shows. Three of them are TV shows. Um, but two of them have movie counterparts that I would also recommend. The I will say, just like I was saying at the beginning, that I found like with the spy espionage genre that I tend to like bail on them soon. So they're like when I was looking through a list of spy TV shows and movies, more TV shows, I was like, oh, I tried this, oh, I tried this, oh, I tried this, but none of them I like saw through because I don't know, I just get like, I don't know, when they get all convoluted, I tend to bail on them. But these four I enjoy. So number four, we already talked about was Mission Impossible 3, which is a great showcase, as I mentioned, for Philip Seymour Hoffman. I don't really need to go into more of that again. Number three is The Americans, which of course stars Kerry Russell and oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name.
Is it Matthew Good?
Matthew
No.
Rhys.
Matthew Rhys. Thank you. Sorry.
As a pair of Russian spies living in America in the 80s. Really tense at times, really great at times, not always good, but it goes, it's kind of, it runs 6 years and there's some filler that doesn't need to be there, but when it's good, it's really good. Number two is Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the TV show, which I talked about at our end of year podcast last year, so I don't really need to get back into it again. You can listen to my thoughts on that in between me talking about Ripley. But I'm looking forward to the second season whenever that comes out, even though I know it's going to take on kind of a different tone and vibe. But I thought that first season was really excellent. And then that's also one that has a movie counterpart that I enjoy as well. And then number one I'm putting the TV show on here, but I actually love the movie as well, is Get Smart, which is a fantastic 60s TV show with Don Adams and Barbara Feldon. It's really goofy and it's parodying all the spy James Bond and all the spy shows of the 60s, but they go all over the place and it's cheap 60s stuff and it's played for laughs, it's satirical. But it's really fun and it's a great show and they are known for their running gags like so many sitcoms from that era. They tend to run jokes into the ground real hard, but it's a really fun show and there's some really great episodes in it. And the movie with Steve Carell is excellent as well.
All right, Geoff, what about you?
So my honorable mentions, I have a TV show honorable mention, and that's 24. Love me some Jack Bauer, but I know he's not necessarily like
I know, I wasn't sure if I could
spy.
include 24.
Yeah, it was tough, kind of like secret agent sort of things, but
Yeah,
he's
like
borderline.
counterterrorism agent kind of.
Yeah, it was kind of borderline there.
Yeah.
Same thing when I was doing searches for espionage or spy movies, and Glorious Bastards came out a bunch, but I also know that the appeal of that movie is not necessarily the spy element or the espionage element, because they're not really good at being spies, 'cause they get found and caught, but I have to give that a shout there as an honorable mention. Normally would be number one on any list. And then honorable mention would be The Kingsman. Kingsman, The Secret Service. Eggsy, played by Taron Egerton, is awesome. And also Colin Firth is great in those movies as well. But my number four is a TV show, Burn Notice, starring Jeffrey Donovan. Bruce Campbell is in that as well, about a spy who's been burned and is kind of hiding low-key in Miami, and he gets into some mischief and stuff. I love the first few seasons of that show. Absolutely adored it. Jeffrey Donovan is awesome whenever I've seen him in movies and stuff. Number three is The Bourne Ultimatum. That's our representation of the Jason Bourne franchise here. The way that trilogy ends, Brian Cox becomes a part of the movie as well. It is so good and so entertaining. Travels the world. I love it so much. Number two is Mission Impossible Fallout. Again, won't talk about it much here because I just referenced it a bunch there earlier in the podcast. And then number one is Casino Royale, the best James Bond movie. My first James Bond movie in theaters. Daniel Craig as my James Bond, the same way Sean Connery was for some generations, Pierce Brosnan was for some generations. Daniel Craig is my James Bond. And the way that movie is so impactful to me growing up, and just the cool factor he plays, and the outfit, from the outfits he's wearing, like all the fancy suits, to getting down and dirty, to the way he and Eva Green play off of each other. Mads Mikkelsen is a great villain in that movie. Just, oh, it's so good. So Casino
That is
Royale,
on our list, right? It should be if it's not.
I will add it to the list if
I,
it's
I've
not.
always I've never seen a James Bond movie. I've always wanted to.
I think we have one of the old, like Sean
Yeah, I think we
Connery
have
James Bond
Goldfinger or
movies.
something on there. Yeah,
I'll throw Casino Royale on the
yeah.
list.
I One other thing I have to say about your list too is I don't know if you ever saw this, but back when Burn Notice was on TV, SNL did a sketch called it was a game show and it was called What is Burn Notice? And the whole premise of the game show was contestants had to say what the show was about. It
Oh
was like
my
a fairly
gosh.
popular show, but it wasn't like obviously like an awards play or anything. And
Right.
so like I feel like it was one of those things that like everybody knew existed, but unless you watched it, you didn't really know what it was.
It's
And
like a bunch of those USA shows, like
yeah,
White
a lot of them
Collar
I
or
think fit
Royal
into
Pains
that.
or anything like that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah.
So
I should
and
give
it's
some
like
of
I'm
the
pretty
older
sure that like
episodes a
the crowd was
rewatch.
like, "What is Burn Notice?" Like a Wheel of Fortune chant.
Oh,
So
that's
good.
too funny. All right, thanks, Jeff. So nobody judge my list. I'm traveling right now and completely forgot to do this, so I had to look stuff up while we were talking, and yeah. So my number four is Austin Powers. I Guys, I don't think I've seen a lot of spy movies or TV shows, honestly. Um, I think I've seen um maybe all of them. I don't really know. And probably only like once or twice. I obviously very goofy, but sure. Um, Number three is the reason why I believe so many women now who were born in the 90s are so good at looking people up online and like being little like detectives and whatever. And it's because of Harriet the Spy. Like
Oh, that's a great one,
1000%.
Amanda. Oh, I wish I'd thought of that. That's a great answer. I loved that movie. Oh, I'm so mad I
Right?
didn't put that on my list.
Yeah, and RIP,
I
because she
know. That was
recently
very
passed
sad.
away.
That was very sad. I
Um,
well, you finish your list, then I have something to say about Harry the Spy.
she's the reason we're all little internet sleuths, I think.
I think that's fair.
My number two, the next best thing from the net, well, I guess I think it was from like 2000 or 2001, Spy Kids, which Jeff and I
Yes.
recently rewatched just for funsies, and it was incredible, so good. Definitely holds up. And then number one, this is probably like the only quote unquote legitimate one on my list, but Kingsman, the Secret Service, like Jeff had on his list. So, what did you want to say about Harriet the Spy?
Well, first of all, Michelle Trachtenberg, RIP. She was one of my first celebrity crushes. I went to see Harriet the Spy in the theaters because I didn't want to see Hunchback of Notre Dame. My dad and my brother and sister went to Hunchback, and my mom and I went to Harriet the Spy, and I was obsessed with it. And I remember like my brother watched it too with me, and we
Mhm.
like would take our notebooks and we'd like sit up in my parents' window looking down the street and we'd write about the people outside. Like it was just so I that's a great one. I wish I had thought of that to put on my list.
Yeah, I mean, who didn't do that after seeing that
Yeah.
movie?
Yeah.
I don't know if I watched it in theaters or not, but I vividly remember my bright orange VHS
Oh yeah.
copy of
Yeah.
it because it was a Nickelodeon movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was a great movie. I don't know if it would hold up, but I part of me doesn't even want to watch it again and just let it live in my childhood.
Right, right. All right. Well, that wraps up Mission Impossible for us today. If you want to watch along with us, we will be doing Lilo and Stitch next. This is in celebration of the fact that there's a live action version of Lilo and Stitch coming out
Just what
soon.
America always wanted.
I know. And I'm sure we'll talk about this a lot in that episode. I'm very anti live action Disney remakes, but this one looks promising. We'll see. Time will tell. So be sure to watch that if you want to watch along with us. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a rating or review and be sure to follow us on all of our social channels. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
To infinity and beyond!
Why so serious?
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.